Hi again, everybody, and welcome to another edition of Around the Town with Chuck. My name is Chuck Guglielmo, a weekly interview show where we talk with interesting people around the community. And we're taping the show on Monday, September the 11th. My guest today is the principal of the Conneaut Area High School here, Tim Neal. Tim, thanks for coming back on the show.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
Tim, you're entering
Always a pleasure.
Entering year number 2.
Year 2.
What's different so far for you entering the second year versus your first year? What have you found different?
I think the big differences are, which is nice, is being acclimated and coming in and able to hit the ground running versus coming in and trying to get a feel for the land and a feel for how everything is. Mm-hmm. So the real big difference is being able to really have the eyes on hitting the ground running on year 2.
Tim, I should have started with this question. Last year when you were on, I had you give a little background about yourself. Now, I know you worked in the Lakeside District, you worked in the Edgewood, and even over in Albion, right?
And over in Albion.
So talk a little bit about that first.
Absolutely. Okay, sure. In Albion, I was at Northwestern. I was a social studies teacher, civics and government, and worked as a co-athletic director there. So I spent a couple of years there, able to implement field trip to DC for the 9th graders, so that was nice. They hadn't had that experience. I know here we've done it in 8th grade for years. As a matter of fact, it was my own experience from taking the trip here in Conneaut to the 8th grade that made me think of it. So that was a great experience. Then I had the opportunity to go over to Asheville Area City Schools, to Lakeside High School as the athletic administrator. Spent a couple years in the athletic program there before becoming the assistant principal for 5. And then I had the great opportunity to go over to Buckeye as the Edgewood High School principal for 2 years. And through some realignment here in Conneaut is when the Conneaut High School principal job opened up. And I made the move here, and this is now my second year as the principal here at Conneaut.
Well, we're glad to have you here at Conneaut.
And thrilled to be home.
One of your challenges, of course, going into last year for all of us here in Conneaut was to try to get the report card grade up.
Sure.
Obviously, that's going to be a challenge again this year, but what
Absolutely.
are some other challenges you think that you will be facing this year?
This year, a big focus, I think, is going to be establishing some student programs, establishing student leadership, and more opportunity for teacher leadership. And so those are going to be my goals and challenges, to get those pieces into place that have an ultimate effect on students learning in the classroom.
Mm-hmm. We recently had Lori Riley on talking about the beginning of a new school year, also her second
Absolutely.
year, and
Absolutely.
I talked a little bit about her with enrollment. So, and there's about 1,700, I think she said, district-wide.
Yes.
What about at the Conneaut High School, grades 9 through 12? Do we have an idea how many students we have there?
Yes, we have approximately, I want to say, just over 600. About 84 at ATEC. So, I have somewhere between 470 and 480 probably in the building. Mm-hmm. At Conneaut High School.
Of the 4 grade levels, which one has the most?
Right now, I think the freshman class is sitting at the most. I think we're sitting at about 140 students in the freshman class. So,
sticking with the demographics, do we have more boys, more girls?
I think it's a pretty even split, to be honest. I haven't quite dug into it that deep, but I think it's a pretty even split.
Mm-hmm. So about 600, as you said, counting ATEC.
Yes. Yeah.
So that would be the largest enrollment of the 4 buildings, or is Lakeshore holding that down?
I think Lakeshore is still holding it down. That just came out today. I didn't open it up. Each month we get enrollment figures and numbers, both as buildings and district-wide, to kind of give us an idea as we're working through things. And I haven't opened that up to take a look at that yet. But I thought Lakeshore kind of had the edge on that in lower levels, which is encouraging, because then that would mean that enrollment in the district, the assumption would be that enrollment in the district would begin to increase with higher numbers and lower grades. So, absolutely.
Of course, Tim, Lori had to make some cuts
Yes.
coming into this year. How did that affect the Conneaut High School staff Do we have less staff members? Are we equal? Or?
I do have less. I have 1.5 less than last year. It's never easy making cuts. It's always a difficult thing. So my hat's off to Lori. She has to do what a superintendent has to do to keep the district right-sized and stay within the budgets. So I had 1.5 positions that I gave up. We're able to absorb that, one of those being in business tech, and then a half in math, of which now I share a teacher with the middle school. But it's working out. It's working out really well.
Mm-hmm.
So,
of everything that you had to offer at the school last year, is any of that we offered last year not being offered this year as far as subjects or anything like that going?
No, and that was a big goal. In meeting the community and halfway in the cuts was we wanted to try, in discussions with Lori Riley and Mrs. Riley, we wanted to try to make sure that we weren't affecting students in the classroom, or at least as minimal as possible affecting students in the classroom. Mm-hmm. So we are offering all the programs that we offered previously to the cuts. Just a few less sections in business and technology.
That's great to be able to keep that intact.
Absolutely, and that's not always the case, and certainly I've been in districts where we weren't that fortunate, but so far we've been very fortunate in being able to keep that intact.
That's very good. The day at the high school now, what are the hours? When do we start? When do we end?
Okay, tardy bell rings at 7:35. Day goes till 2:20.
Has that changed from last year? Or is that still the same?
It's just a little bit of an adjustment. Last year was 2:40 to 2:30, so we just adjusted a little bit.
Okay, and during that time slot, how many class periods do we have?
7 class periods.
And they're how long?
And they're all except for 5th period, they're all approximately 50 minutes. 5th period, I did go to a 3 lunch model this year. We had been on a 2 lunch model for meaning 2 lunches in 1 period.
Okay, I was going to ask what you
absolutely.
meant by that.
Sorry, I should clarify that. Absolutely, 2 lunches in 1 period versus 3 lunches. So so in order to do 3, then you have to have a more extended period of time for that period. So that period's actually an hour, but within that hour of class, you're able to rotate 3 30-minute lunches.
Okay,
if that makes sense.
Lunches, yes, lunches are one half hour long. We've always been that way, I believe.
Yeah,
trying
absolutely.
to go back to when I was going there as well. How many minutes do the students have between class
4
periods?
minutes.
4 minutes.
4
okay,
minutes.
so that went up a minute.
Well,
it used to be 3.
It used to be 3 a while back. I remember it being 3 in school, but I guess it's been 4 for a while at Conneaut. I know I like 4. It gives a very reasonable amount of time, especially if you're going from one side of the building to the other, allowing students to stop at their locker. 4 minutes is very ample. So,
when we go to the high school now, it used to be the North Wing used to be all where the English and literature classes were. Is that the same?
Okay. No.
Take me through the whole building.
I'll take you through the building. Absolutely,
I'm curious.
because it was like that when I was in school.
Oh, okay.
That was the English wing, and absolutely.
And the social studies was like the South Wing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So North Wing is math now. It's all math classes.
That changed. All right.
Then the South Wing is social studies and foreign language and music. Choir, I should say, because band, of course, is back in the band room, which I guess you call that the Southwest Wing, maybe.
Okay.
Which is where family consumer science, tech, and woodshop is as well. And then upstairs is science classes that goes east-west, and then directly below that is the English classes in that same wing that goes east-west.
Thanks for taking me on that talking tour.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Hope I didn't lose you.
You mentioned the band room.
Yes.
Great honor this year to have it named George Wojtek Band Room.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely.
How did that come about, Tim?
That was actually brought to us by a community person. Or actually, I should say, because he doesn't actually live in the community anymore, but he was a foreign exchange student here. And he kind of set the ground running with that, and then got it into some community hands, and and it was in honor long overdue, I think. I happen to have the pleasure of having Mr. Wojtek through junior high and up through my ninth grade year, and it just had an amazing impact on the music program, and a wonderful man.
He sure was, and he brought a great tradition here.
Absolutely.
And the band directors that followed kept it.
And kept it.
It was just great.
Yeah,
Their band has
absolutely.
got that fancy footwork style.
That's it, for sure.
Yeah, and
Absolutely.
everybody enjoys that. And
Yes.
Gets them pumped up at the football games.
Nice, absolutely, absolutely, and it's nice. It's kind of feel great that he has that legacy. That
Yeah.
he's left behind.
Yeah, he was an outstanding man.
Yes,
Great band director. Rita Maslowski is your assistant.
she is.
Now, what are her roles and responsibilities at the high school?
She handles discipline as the assistant principal. Handles a lot of day-to-day function. She does things like parking and parking tags and a lot of administrative functions in that aspect of day-to-day management of the building. And then, like I said, primarily, discipline and working with students in that fashion.
Looking in the sports scene, of course, that's a big thing at Conneaut High School, is
Yes,
the sports
absolutely.
program. What other extracurricular activities are there? And I know you're very involved in them. I saw you at Township Park the other day with the cross-country team.
Yes. What a great,
What other
great thing to have that at home
extracurriculars
again.
do
That
we
was nice.
offer there?
Okay, absolutely. There's the National Honor Societies there. We're currently, I'm trying to, I got a couple teachers involved. We're trying to implement a SAD group, Students Against Destructive Decisions. So I'm really excited about that and getting that up and off the ground and running. There's an environmental club. Mr. Rhodes is in charge of, so that's really exciting, and the kids have done some great things in that. And I'm sure I'm missing some, aside from the music program and those opportunities there, such as show choir and marching band. But there really is something for everyone.
Sure,
There's something to find there to be active.
And
to
they're
be a
very important to have
participant.
that extracurricular activity.
It is, absolutely. And it's a piece that connects a student outside of just the academics.
And the sports, of course, is a big one for me. I'm a sports-minded
Sure,
person.
sure.
And I think you are too.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
How's the District 10? Now we're entering our second year with
We're
District
in
10. How's your
District 10.
relationship with those schools been going?
The relationship is great. Which is great to hear as a principal. We finished up the year last year with District 10. Heard great things, both from their administration, from visiting parents, about positive, how they felt great about coming here, how they felt that we had good spirit and great sportsmanship, and these are great things as a principal that you hear and you're like, well, thank you. We really, we hope, we strive that that's what's happening, and that the vision and the impression is that we do have great sportsmanship and we are a great community to be a part of. So the relationship's been very well. They've been very pleased to have us, and we look forward to having a solid relationship here as we keep moving forward.
And I think we could say the same about them. I mean, they've been
Absolutely.
very sportsmanlike too, as well, from what I see.
They have. We absolutely could say the same about them, and we certainly are forever in gratitude that they've taken us aboard and allowed us to come across the state lines and be a part of their league and a part of their organization.
As principal of the Conneaut High School, talking with Tim Neal, Conneaut High School principal. Tim, do you guys ever meet with other county high school principals during the year?
We do, absolutely. As a matter of fact, I have a meeting tomorrow with county principals. It's our first one of the year. We try to get together once a month. We typically meet out at ATEC, kind of a central site, considering the county.
This is all the county high schools?
And it's all the county high schools.
All the public county high schools?
Yes,
Yeah.
all the public county high schools. And then we get together, and depending on where we're at in the school year, it could vary on the agenda, but we often discuss things like testing and schedules and courses, and when there's new legislation that comes out, we discuss it and just kind of bounce ideas off each other in each district. How are you handling this? How are you taking care of this? And just really kind of supporting and bouncing ideas off each other.
So you like taking notes, comparing thoughts, what they have, what you may not have, vice versa?
And vice versa, absolutely.
That's
Absolutely.
good that
And
you
try to
guys
take
do
the
that.
best ideas and implement them and hit the ground running.
That's good. Back to the hours for a minute. Last year you had an experience with one of those 2-hour delays. How did that go for
Yes.
you?
I thought the 2-hour delay went well. It's a tough call because the hard part is on the community. And I know Lori, Mrs. Riley, recognizes that. So it's often the last trigger you want to pull,
Right.
if you will, when it comes to snow days. Because really on the community part, it's tough. The parents are trying to find a sitter at the last minute. They're trying to cover that 2 hours that the child's not going to be in school. So you try to take that in consideration. The positive to it is that you save those hours. And so they don't become makeup hours, because by having the delay, we're able to clear the streets, clear the sidewalks at the school, get things ready, and it does not become a calamity day.
Like Lori and I were talking, and you just said it too, you really don't want to use that 2-hour delay, but if there ever was a case to use it, last year's case because of the power outage, that was a great time to use
That was
a
a
2-hour
great
delay.
time to use it, absolutely.
Yeah.
No, and that's a great example. I'm glad you mentioned that.
Yeah.
It was a perfect example. You have
Yeah.
a power outage, you're able to get the power back on. We're able to delay, get the kids back into the school without losing the day.
So instead of a 7:30 start, you would have started at 9:30 at the high
9:30.
school. So do you skip the first period, or do you start with the first period? How does that work?
We tried a couple different ways. I think normally the most sound thing at the high school is that you just skip the first 2 periods and then go into wherever you're picking up at. I've certainly modeled it both different ways between schools that I've been at. Sometimes you can rewrite the schedule for a 2-hour delay, but you really start looking at being in those classes for 20 minutes, 25 minutes maybe. And so you start to weigh the options. Is it better to not have all the classes, but have them at a longer time period, or to get through all 7 classes, but only have them for maybe 20 minutes or so?
So you shorten
So
class
the
periods.
time periods, absolutely.
As a principal, Tim, do you have any contact? I'm sure you have contact, but do you get involved at all with the athletic administrator
Oh,
on
absolutely.
decision making or anything,
Absolutely.
schedule changes?
We discuss things every day. Joel Taylor's great. He bounces things off me. I bounce things off him administratively. I try not to get involved in schedule changes and stuff. That's certainly his realm. But there's oftentimes communication. Matter of fact, today we were just communicating on talking about having a pep assembly this Friday. It's not a home game, but it is our first District 10 opening. And we want to recognize those students, those 2 teams, football and softball, that both had District 10 championships last year. So
That's a good idea.
So we're going to open with a pep assembly, even though it's an away game, and that way we can
outstanding.
recognize those students as we open up District 10 play this year.
Yeah, I think that's outstanding.
So absolutely. So that's just one example of us talking back and forth and coming up with something that's good for the students.
How is the administration's relationship with the parents? Like parent-teacher conferences, how does that work at the high school?
Okay. I think we have a great relationship. We try to communicate as much as possible. I know I certainly try to get out as much as possible, try to communicate both within the school day and outside of the school day. Conferences run well. We always wish we had more involvement, but that's a continuation of something that you wish, regardless of what district you're in. So you try to, when you specifically talk about conferences, you try to boost participation in that, because
You have 2 a year?
we have 2 a semester.
Okay.
So we have one coming up on the 21st, and then we'll have another one in November.
Evening?
Yes,
They're both
those
in
both
evening?
evening. And then in the spring we'll have 2, and we're going to try evening morning format.
Yeah, well, they did that before.
They did that before. So there was some discussion this past year if we did evening morning format. Could that possibly help increase participation for parents who may work second shift versus like first shift to be able to participate, or even third shift. So,
and I'm sure even if a parent wanted to have a conference with a teacher and they couldn't make the conference times, they could schedule an appointment with the classroom teacher.
Absolutely. Just reach out to the teacher, reach out to me, and we can get that set up. Absolutely.
Now, as a principal, you do observing? You go and observe teachers?
Yes, absolutely.
Is there certain ones you have to observe? Is it go by the year? How long?
Well, there does. There's in terms of evaluations, whether it's an evaluation year or not an evaluation year for the teacher, certainly I want to get in all the classes and do walkthroughs and see how things are going. But in terms of numbers and observations, it depends whether it's an evaluation year or not, and whether you have to specifically go by the guidelines of the evaluation year, which would be 2 observations for an evaluation. So there's specifics that go along with it when you talk about evaluation years, but certainly just being out in the classroom, being out with the students, walking through, just try to do that as often as possible.
Do you see, now you played football?
Yep, football, basketball.
Yeah, you played. Do you see, and you haven't played that long ago, you're a young man yet. Do you
Feels
see
like it.
do you see any major changes in today's high school athletes versus when you played? Any changes in them or any changes in the game itself?
That's interesting, because I guess when you think about it, you were a kid looking at it through those lenses. So certainly as an adult looking back, we've certainly all been like, we were more disciplined than that, or we were. But the truth is, were we really? I don't know, because now I'm looking at it as an adult versus looking at it through the kid's lens. But big changes, I would say, in things like football, certainly safety has become more and more a concern all the time. And I should say in all sports, I shouldn't say just football, like having the concussion protocol and going through that with students who may have a head injury, which is a good thing, having a concussion protocol. But these are things that may not have really been in light when I was a student athlete. So in terms of safety and in that aspect of the game, I do see changes. I see them in a positive fashion. You always hope that, more students would participate. So again, it seemed like everybody did when I was a kid, but you're looking at it through a kid's lens. So I don't know, it could be pretty similar.
We have a lot of sports at Conneaut, and I know an administrator
do.
of some sort has to be at home games and away games, I believe, right?
Yeah.
Do you make out a schedule as to who goes where, and how? Can that become confusing?
It can be.
You can have 3 or 4 sports on one day.
On one day, for sure, and at different locations,
right.
and we do our best to try to ensure that we're kind of rotating through. As an athletic administrator, and you kind of take some responsibility, especially on home events. So, there are certainly times where last year I tried to urge Mr. Taylor to let me rotate him out so that he could have an evening off. I can handle this, I'll be there. But you try to work it out. There are multiple evening events, and you try to, I have a great administrative team, and we do our best to rotate between us to say, I'll take this event tonight, take the night, you've been here 3 nights in a row, take the night off. I got this, and that way we kind of work through it without someone covering 6 nights a week, 4 weeks a month. And because you really get burnout if that's the case.
Oh, sure. And like I say, we have a lot of sports
for sure
to cover. Last Friday night at Joslin Field, we had First Responders Night, which was very good to have. How did that go?
I thought it went really well. That was another great idea that came in from the community. That in at least tying it with our game that would be the weekend of September 11th, and that connection, having First Responders Night. I know it was something, First Responders Night, that we had started to get off the ground last year a little bit. This year we really tied those two things together. I thought it was really great. Just the aspect to be able to thank and to be able to recognize those first responders in our community that give so much day in and day out. The weather was a little iffy all throughout the night, so I think it might have kept some people away, but just to be able to have that opportunity to honor them, because we certainly do appreciate that our fire and our EMS and our police that day in and day out keep us safe.
The next big event you're preparing for now is the September 29th homecoming game against Corey.
Against Corey.
And how are we already? I'm sure we're already getting preparations ready for that and ready to go.
We
big
are.
Parade and everything.
We are for sure. And as a matter of fact, we just named the court today. The seniors voted for nomination of the students who are going to be on the court. So we named the homecoming court today. So we're at the initial stages of that, and I know that Mrs. McChrissigi and Mrs. McKinley and those involved with homecoming directly are already off the ground and running and talking about the parade and getting things lined up. It's always an exciting time. It really is, and to be able to have the parade and then the festivities and it's a great atmosphere, and really, truly, you see a lot of the school pride come out on homecoming weekend, and I, as an administrator, I love it.
Tim, you do a great job. You make yourself available, and continued good luck to you as principal here at Conneaut.
Thank you very much.
Okay. Tim Neal, my guest today on Around the Town with Chuck.